promoting dialogue.
It's May Day in Dakar, 1 o'clock in Porto Novo. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa, Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink, here are the top stories. Senegal's extractive industry generates over $600 million in 2023, representing a 39% increase since 2022, according to latest ERTR report. The Gambia's major opposition leader Dabo calls for opposition unity amid over 1,000-member defect.
I'm appealing to every member of supporter of this great party to jealously guard our unity and avoid at all costs anything that has the potential to fray our unity.
A former vice president of Mali's National Transitional Council, Issa Kaoujem, sentenced to 2 years in prison for insulting a foreign head of state. And Ghana's President Akufo-Addo confers highest national honor on his vice president, as well as popular black Pan-Africanist Marcus Garvey.
Marcus Garvey's Pan-African ideals continue to resonate deeply, urging us to unite as global Africans and take charge of our destiny.
Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Augustine Cole with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining us and welcome to our listeners in the Gambia, Ghana, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. This edition begins right here in Senegal, where the extraction of natural resources generated just over 380 billion CFA francs in 2023. This is according to the report about the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, ERTR. The amount represents a 39% increase compared to 2022, as indicated in the report published on Monday. The document is reviewed by Mustafa Jakiti and voiced by Christopher Aticho.
380 billion CFA funds is the amount generated from the extraction of oil, gas and minerals. According to the 2023 EITI report, this marks a significant increase compared to 2022, where production was 102 billion CFA francs, a 39% rise. The document attributes this increase to tax adjustment for the gold mineral company, Sabodala Gold Operations, amounting to over 14 billion CFA francs, and Cement to Sahel, amounting to 2.5 billion CFA francs. Additionally, there was an increase in corporate tax, mainly for Sabodala Gold Operations, Petrol Mining Company SA, and the Senegal River Valley Mining Company, totaling 50.28 billion CFA francs. The EITI also indicates in its documents that out of the 380 billion CFA francs, 346 billion were allocated to the state budget, representing just over 91% of the extractive resource revenues. Among the main productions, gold stands out with nearly 12 tons produced in 2023, valued at over 480 billion CFA francs. Cement and phosphate follow with just 240 and 67 billion CFA francs respectively. Despite these achievements, the EITI identifies several challenges, notably low employment rate in the extractive sector. The report also highlights the need to enhance transparency in resource management through the regular publication of production and export data. The extractive sector plays a key role in national economy, contributing to nearly 34% of exports in 2023.
That was Mustafa Jakiti's review of the ERTR report on Senegal, voiced by Christopher Aticho. Over in the Gambia, the opposition leader, lawyer Ousainou Dabo, has called for unity among members of the leading opposition party, the United Democratic Party. The veteran politician made the plea during the party's non-elective congress in the capital Banjul on Monday. Meanwhile, the party has also claimed that over 1,000 people have defected. Sankule Janko tells us more in this report.
Talks surrounding the leadership of the leading opposition UDP ahead of the general elections in 2026 have dominated public discourse in the Gambia. with an aging party leader and the recent defection of campaign manager Mamadou Sabari to the ruling National People's Party. Some party sympathizers of UDP want clarity on the future of the leadership. However, the Secretary General and party leader Usainu Dabo has urged his supporters to remain united.
I'm appealing to every member and supporter of this great party to jealously guard our unity and avoid at all costs anything that has the potential to fray our unity. Our opponents, who come in many ways, will try to sow seeds of discord among our ranks at every opportunity. Do not play into their hands, no matter how they try. Make them fail at all costs.
The veteran lawyer Dabo also criticized the Barrow-led government for prioritizing personal goals at the expense of Gambians. Meanwhile, the party secretary and minority leader of the National Assembly, Elijah Dabo, claims over 1,000 supporters have defected to the party recently.
1,150 defectors recorded, with this record of party militants increasing. Constituency executive committees were all to organize a door-to-door outreach campaign to discuss with electorate.
The Dabo-led UDP has lost all contested presidential elections against former President Jammeh and Barrow in 2021. Although the party was key in Jammeh's defeat in 2016, it has remained in the opposition since its inception in 1996. For News in West Africa from Across Radio, I am Sankula Janko reporting from Banjul.
In Guinea, the opposition leader and president of the Model Party, Aliyu Ba, was placed on a detention order on Monday by the prosecutor of the Kalom Court of First Instance. He has been persecuted for insulting the Guinean head of state, General Mamadi Doumbouya. His lawyers described the case as politically motivated, aiming to intimidate opinion leaders and socio-political actors. His trial is scheduled for Tuesday at the Conakry First Court.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Let's now take you to the Sahel region because in Mali, Issa Kaoudjim has been sentenced to 2 years in prison with 1 year to be served. He is also required to pay a fine of 5 million CFA francs, nearly $8,000. The former vice president of the National Transitional Council is accused of insulting a foreign head of state and using information systems to issue insults. His lawyer considers the penalty to be very harsh and plans to appeal. Details from our correspondent in Bamako, Aliyu Cham, and voiced by Abdullahi Hassan.
The verdict of the Bamako court was delivered Monday. Issa Kaoudjim was sentenced to 2 years in prison, one of which was firm. He was also forced to pay a fine of 5 million CFA francs. His lawyer, Boubacar Soumare, said he was surprised by the verdict against his client.
I believe
the penalty was very heavy because I think the judge had the option to find even alternative words. The law that was applied gave the possibility of imposing a fine on Issa Kaoudjim ranging from 50,000 to 600,000. In my opinion, the penalty was too severe.
During his trial last week, Issa Kaoudjim pleaded not guilty to the charges against him, adding that his own statements were misinterpreted and that he never mentioned the name of the Burkinabe president, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. Soumare intends to appeal the decision.
Yes, undoubtedly, because the penalty was indeed very heavy. Additionally, there are many aspects that can certainly be criticized in the judgment, like leading to an appeal.
Imprisoned since November 13, he is accused of insulting a foreign head of state and of insulting through information systems. The former vice president of the National Transitional Council, NTC, had expressed doubt about the veracity of the last coup attempt in Burkina Faso during a debate on Joliba TV News.
That was Aliyu Cham's report from Bamako, voiced by Abdullahi Hassan. We continue in the Sahel and now in Burkina Faso, where the new Chief of General Staff of the Armed Forces, General Musa Jallo, has officially taken office. Replacing Brigadier General Celestin Simpori, he received the command baton on Monday. He said he is committed to intensifying the fight against terrorism to reclaim national territory. Let's listen to General Musa Jallo.
Les aspirations légitimes de notre peuple à vivre dignement et en toute sécurité.
The legitimate aspirations of our people to live in dignity and complete security in peaceful manner depends on a gradual recovery of our national territory. To achieve this, the units engaged in operations must double their efforts and vigilance against desperate terrorists. The second act involves fostering a sacred unity between the combat forces and the population. This means strengthening collaboration among the different branches of our army, as well as between the defense forces, internal security forces, and the volunteers for the defense of the homeland, VDP. We must protect integrity and unity within the population. Our goal is to defend the ideals of peace and proximity for our people. It is our duty, first and foremost, as defense and security forces and as volunteers for the defense of the homeland, to uphold this responsibility.
You just heard the voice of General Musa Jallo, the new Chief of General Staff of the Armed Forces of Burkina Faso. Away from the Sahel, the World Bank has disbursed a 1.5 billion naira loan to Nigeria in recognition of the government's recent economic reforms, including the removal of fuel subsidies and the introduction of tax policies. This is part of a broader 2.25 billion financial package aimed at stabilizing the Nigerian economy and supporting vulnerable populations. Usman Umar explains further.
The package comprises two key operations. The $1.5 billion Nigeria Reforms for Economic Stabilization to Enable Transformation, RESET, Development Policy Financing Program, DPF, and the $750 million Nigeria Accelerating Resource Mobilization Reforms, ARMOR, Program for Result, P4R. These initiatives are designed to enhance fiscal sustainability, boost revenues, and provide resources for essential public services. The $1.5 billion loan was released in two tranches. The first, a $750 million loan from the International Development Association, IDA, features a 12-year repayment period with a 6-year grace period and was disbursed on July 2, 2024. The second tranche, a $750 million loan from the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, IBRD, with a 24-year maturity and 11-year grace period, was disbursed in November 2024, following the fulfillment of specific reform conditions. The World Bank praised Nigeria's economic measures, including the unification of multiple exchange rates, market-driven gasoline pricing, and efforts to strengthen tax and customs administration. A targeted cash transfer program has also been introduced to cushion the impact of inflation on vulnerable households. World Bank Vice President for Western and Central Africa, Osman Diagana, commended Nigeria's reform efforts, describing them as far-reaching, in quotes, and critical for economic stability and poverty reduction. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
Meanwhile, Nigeria's Ministers of Budget and National Planning, Atiku Bagudu, and that of Finance, Will Idom, have expressed optimism that Nigeria's economy will reap the benefits of some of the reforms initiated by the government in the last year. While Bagudu speaks to the reforms initiated, Will speaks of the benefits of a recent bilateral agreement with Saudi Arabia.
We have taken the top choices. We have seen maybe where we have seen the worst we could see, and not unexpected. That is why social protection was improved. So what we are expecting to see in 25 is better economic, lower inflation, more employment opportunities, more support for businesses, more infrastructure development, more funding of security and better security, and all those priority areas, human capital development, education, health, we are sure to see more in that direction, and the quality of life will get better.
We all went really to follow up on the economic diplomacy, the incisive, robust, and of course, exhaustive economic diplomacy that His Excellency Mr. President has carried out around the world, on all the continents, whether it's South America, Brazil, whether it's Asia, China, India.
Those were Nigeria's Ministers of Budget and National Planning, Atiku Bagudu, and that of Finance, Will Idom. You are listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of the top stories. Senegal's extractive industry generates over $600 million in 2023, representing a 39% increase since 2022, according to latest ERTR report. The Gambia's major opposition leader Dabo calls for opposition unity amid over 1,000-member defect. A former vice president of the Mali's National Transitional Council, Issa Kawunjim, sentenced to 2 years in prison for insulting a foreign head of state. Still ahead in the news, Ghana's President Akufo-Addo confers highest national honor on his vice president, as well as popular black Pan-Africanist Marcus Garvey. We also have the press review, guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
You are listening to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal.
Thanks for sticking with us. As a reminder, we broadcast and streaming live on YouTube at WADR News and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Ghana's President Nana Akufo-Addo has presented one of the nation's highest awards, the Order of the Star of Ghana Officer Award, to his Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. This was during the 2024 National Honors and Awards ceremony held in Accra on Monday. The National Honors and Awards is a national ceremony that honors citizens who have rendered distinguished services to Ghana in various fields and careers. Also among those who were recognized were ministers of state, persons from across all sectors of the economy, public and civil servants, and distinguished business personalities. A posthumous award was given in the memory of black Pan-Africanist Marcus Garvey. Here is the Ghanaian president speaking.
To our honorees, let this recognition inspire you to reach even greater heights. To the rest of us, let their stories remind us that we all have a role to play in building the Ghana of our dreams. A Ghana where every child has a future, every worker has dignity, and every citizen has a voice. This year's ceremony is especially meaningful as it coincides with milestones in our journey as a nation. Ghana is pushing forward with bold reforms in governance, education, and industry, efforts made possible by the collective spirit of our people. As we strive to achieve a Ghana beyond aid, we must remember that the achievements we celebrate today are building blocks for the future we envision. To the institutions receiving the Presidential Plaque for Distinguished Service, including the Ghana Armed Forces, the Ghana Immigration Service, the Ghana Prison Service, and the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences, your work reflects the very best of our collective spirit. You remind us that greatness is achieved through teamwork and dedication. I would like also to take a moment to honor our posthumous awardee, Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey's Pan-African ideals continue to resonate deeply, urging us to unite as global Africans and take charge of our destiny. His legacy, along with those of others who are no longer with us, is a clarion call for us to carry forward their unfinished work.
He's Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Well, let's now head to the Liberian capital, Monrovia, where Grace Joshua is on standby with the press review.
For today's edition of the press review, papers we are following are the Independent Probe newspaper, the Inquirer newspaper, the DN newspaper, and the New Republic newspaper. On the front page of the DN newspaper, this story says, Executive Mansion denied report of Dr. Robert Ninjipale appointment as UL President. We now bring you this story, possibilities of tariff hike still hovering over LEC customers. Still on the front page of the DN News Liberia, this one says, Total Time Concerned Citizen re-echo call for accountability into the management of Tingo explosion funds. Boulevard Palace General Manager reportedly died after drinking caustic soda. DN News Liberia has learned from sources that Agwa Falu, General Manager of the Boulevard Palace, has died. According to a report, Falu allegedly drank caustic soda, a cleaning chemical, while visiting a friend's house on the Nash Street. On the front page of the New Republic newspaper, Bouaka faces criticism over latest trip to Ghana. Liberia President Joseph Yuma Bouaka has come under intense criticism on social media following the announcement by the Executive Mansion Press regarding his 2-day trip to Accra. BMMC donates over 2,500 bags of rice and present a catch of over 22,000 to youth in its affected community as they end cleaning initiative. Still on the front page of the New Republic newspaper, traditional elders call for restraint in horse crashes. We now bring you the Independent Probe newspaper. Movers and Shakers 2024 back RP Annual Award. Liberia remember Jimmy Carter visit to Liberia in Roots for Nigeria 1978. Still on the front page of the Inquirer newspaper this month, we submitted 12 special audit report. IAA boss disclosed. This is how we come to an end of today's edition of the Press Review. I'm Grace Joshua in Monrovia.
Thank you, Grace Joshua, for the Press Review.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
This segment of Newslink takes us back to Nigeria, where the World Bank has disbursed a $1.5 billion loan in recognition of the government's recent economic reforms, including the removal of fuel subsidies and the introduction of tax policies. Our guest is Sombozon Adeyeye, a Nigerian economist who speaks about the effect and impact of the loan on the Nigerian economy.
My immediate reaction would be that an average Nigerian should be worried about the level of collective indebtedness as an economy. But those people were at the ends of affairs, particularly the debt management office, who DMO, will tell you that our debt to GDP is still very considerable. But I think we should be concerned about what's our debt to revenues that we generate. So that one will put us on the state of caution than be blanketly talking about GDP ratio every time. So I will say, yes, debt in itself is not a bad idea. It's not a negative thing. But if we look at where we are coming from, at some point before Buhari left government, we were servicing our debt with almost 97% of our generated revenue. That's not good for any economy. So, and if what we are also getting now is that we are accumulating more debt, everyone should be worried. So, my first concern is that it is a debt, it's not a grant. And the second one is that if it's a debt, it should be properly managed. It should have effect on those people that are targeted by even the World Bank that made them to release the loan in the first place. But what we see over time is that we just hear about these billions of naira. We don't see how it is filtered away. And it ends up in the pockets of some privileged individuals.
Now, as an economist, what impact do you think this 1.5 billion naira can have on Nigeria's economy?
I can tell you without blinking eyes that it will have little, don't let me say little or no, I would say it will have little effect. Nigeria is a big country of our 200 million people that has over 130 million living below the poverty level. So how much is 1.5 billion naira? So that's like a drop in the ocean. So it will have little or no effect. I understand the fact that there have been a lot of efforts from different angles by the government, but the challenge has always been that how it trickles down to those people that are affected. Well, there are people that these are targeted at, but do they really get it at the end of the day? That's the question. And this boils down to corruption in our system. this is not about Tinubu or about the people at the topmost levels. It's about an average Nigerian trying to do the right thing. If those people that are saddled with this responsibility take it upon themselves to live for the people, to ensure that what is targeted is achieved, then we will have that effect of policies and programs of government. But if all we keep doing is pay lip service to this allegation of poverty that is ravaging the country at this point, I think it will be something that at least more to be desired.
Somboson Adeyeye is a Nigerian economist. Here is Sankule Janko with sports.
Hello out there, a warm welcome and thank you for joining us. The CAF Disciplinary Board has handed down sanctions to various football associations for breaking various CAF rules during the course of the AFCON qualifiers. Equatorial Guinea were charged for failure to provide adequate security at the CAF Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2025 qualifiers encounter against Togo on 14 November 2024 in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea. The CAF Disciplinary Board found Equatorial Guinea guilty and imposed a suspended sanction of $25,000. The CAF Disciplinary Board further imposed a $5,000 fine on Equatorial Guinea for a lack of security, which resulted in supporters invading the pitch. The board also charged the Libyan Football Federation with misconduct following incidents during the qualifiers fixture against Benin in Benghazi on 18 November 2024. The disciplinary board found the Libyan Football Federation guilty of violating Articles 82 and 151 of the CAF Disciplinary Code for the behavior of its supporters and officials during and after the match. The Libyan Football Federation was ordered to play its next two official national team matches behind closed doors, and the CAF Disciplinary Board imposed a fine of $50,000 on the Libyan Football Federation. Meanwhile, CAF Disciplinary Board charged Beninese Football Federation for its non-collaboration with the Disciplinary Board in violation of Article 45 of the CAF Disciplinary Code during the CAF Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers against Rwanda. The CAF Disciplinary Board found the Beninese Football Federation and imposed a fine of $5,000 for violation of Article 45 of the CAF Disciplinary Code. The Disciplinary Board also imposed a fine of $50,000 with $25,000 suspended for misconduct of its officials at the end of the match. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
We've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Christian Mukidi and Umu Danyogo for the technical support. Do interact with us via our social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, WADR English Service. I am Augustine Kelly. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening